What Happens Next is a pretty solid title track, but I actually...
Is that right?
What Happens Next is Joe Satriani's 16th studio album and features the Satch on guitar and keys, Glenn Hughes on bass, and Chad Smith on drums. And What Happens Next is produced by Mike Fraser. Now, I've got to say, I was really looking forward to this album as I've been following the album online through social media for quite some time, you know, just checking out the development of it, interviews with Satch, and it's quite obvious that there was something special happening with this album, and it was quite obvious that these three guys were having a lot of fun making music together. The album opens with a track called Energy, and it's quite a fitting title actually. It's very up-tempo, great melodies, great musicianship all round, and it's really an explosive opening for this album, which I really enjoyed. Something Satch has definitely been using on this album is a little bit more experimentation with synths and keys. And Catbot, the follow-up track, the second track on the album, definitely showcases some of that side a little bit more. It's a pretty cool track. My other favorite track would have to be Head Rush from this album. It's definitely the Satch Boogie of this album, if you like, and it's very up-tempo. There's a lot of great energy on the track, some stellar work from Satch as we've come to expect, of course, but also Glenn and Chad are really given moments to shine on this track and through some other parts on the album, but here it really showcases a band effort rather than Glenn and Chad just servicing as a backing track to what Satch is playing. It's a fantastic track, highly recommend checking that one out. Chad and Glenn are remarkable on this album, as you would expect from two fantastic musicians. And of course, this isn't the first time that Chad has actually worked with Satch. They were in a band called Chickenfoot with Sammy Hagar and Mike Anthony, and they produced some great music there. What I love is the fact that, you know, as I said earlier, these guys are not really just a backing track to what Satch is playing. They're a very integral part to these songs, and what Chad offers is some great cymbal work that really complements a lot of Satch's lines. Glenn Hughes is sounding absolutely fantastic as well, and he's not one to just stick to the root note. He likes to get around the fretboard, and we really haven't heard bass playing of this caliber since Stu Ham was in Satch's band. So I really think that these two are a great choice, and I really hope that Satch actually takes these guys out on tour with him. But of course, Joe Satriani, it is his album, and how's the man sounding? Absolutely stellar. I mean, what else would we expect from Joe Satriani? Unfortunately, it's one of those things where Satch is one of my favorite players and a great influence in my career, so I can't help but have this review be a little bit more biased towards him. If you love Satch's other work, you'll probably love this album just as much. I mean, here he's really on top of his game. He's an absolute master of his instrument, and he's also a masterful musician, and I think that's what really sets Satch apart from some of his other peers in this instrumental guitar rock music genre, is the fact that while his playing is technically impressive, I always feel that he's not really trying to show off his technical wizardry as much as he's trying to show you a great song. And I think that's where he has the edge over a lot of other players. It's more about the song rather than trying to show off his guitar skills. Mike Fraser is up there with one of my favorite producers of all time. I mean, he's got an impressive body of work, and What Happens Next is an album that can definitely slot in to some of his best. He's produced here a very thick, very luscious album. There's some really great panning going on in this album, and fantastic performances as well. And you've also got an album that has a lot of light and shade to it, a lot of dynamic range, and that is so important for a Satriani album, to have peaks and valleys. I think Joe has always sounded good across his body of work. There's really no question about that, but I think Mike really understands how to get the best out of him in terms of performance and also tone. You can really tell that Joe and Mike sat down and had a very long discussion about guitar tone on this album, because what we've got here is an approach where Joe has pretty much used different guitar tones across this album to really give these tracks a lot of identity, and it just works so well on this album. And you know, a lot of discussion about effects, the right amount of delay, guitar and amp configurations, what mics. There's a lot of effort that's been gone into that side of it, and it really helps this album. Mike also really understands that while it is about Joe, it's important to also make sure that Chad and Glenn are given a lot of room in the mix, and he definitely does that, and it really makes this album feel more like a band effort, as I've said many times in this review so far. It's a great album. My only minor complaint with this album is I felt that the track listing here has a few too many mid-tempo songs and really could have done with another up-tempo number or another ballad, and I feel that would have balanced the album out a little bit more, but it's such a minor nitpick. I really enjoyed this album, guys, and I'm going to give Joe Satriani What Happens Next an A-. So guys, what did you think of Joe Satriani What Happens Next? Did you like the album? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, also let me know your favorite Joe Satriani album of all time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time guys, don't forget, support the artist, buy the music. Rock on.